Welcome to Words from Your Mama. I'm your host, Simone. If you're a mom or maybe considering being a mom and you want some encouragement along the way, then this podcast is for you. On this podcast, I interview moms from every walk of life as they share their experiences. So thanks for listening.
Instead of focusing on all your regrets that you didn't do as a parent, why don't you look at the stuff you did do as a parent, you know?
On this episode, we are going to be interviewing my friend, Linda Simpkins. I have had the pleasure of doing life with her and her family for over 10 years now, and I wouldn't change any second of it. I love them to pieces, and they have been an incredible strength to me. What about family traditions growing up? Did you have any family traditions growing up?
We did. As a matter of fact, we would have Sunday dinners at my grandmother's beach house
Nice.
with our extended family. And that was we did that for a very long time. So that was one of our big and crab runs.
Ooh.
Now, if you're listening to this, you probably have no idea what a crab run is. So let me tell you what a crab run is. We don't get them much around here anymore. So a crab run is when the oxygen in the river is a little bit low. So the crabs come up to the beach. And it depends on, how low the oxygen in the river is by how many crabs are going to come up. So if it's a massive crab run,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll come up in droves. They'll sit on the beach to get their oxygen. I think it's oxygen, if I'm not mistaken. And you can look in the water, just standing on the beach, and you can take a crab net, and you got yourself a bushel basket, and you just go in there and you scoop all these crabs up, and you put them in the bushel basket, and you keep doing it. So those were family traditions for us. My mom, she would wake up in the morning, and no sooner did she get out of bed, it was like, "Hey kids, we got a crab run today. No going to school." So we would miss school for crab runs, and we would be out there. And believe it or not, those were our dinners. We would catch them. She would boil them, and then when they were all boiled, we would sit around and pick the crabs, and we would pick the crab meat, and we would get crab soup, crab cake.
Yes.
That's just what you do in Southern Maryland.
Yep.
And so that's one. And then stuffed ham. My mom every Thanksgiving would make a stuffed ham. Her and my uncle. So
Stuffed ham's good.
it is very good.
Those are some really awesome traditions that I am a little bit jealous of.
I miss the crab runs. I will tell you that.
Yes. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Why don't they happen anymore?
I don't know if it's just the building and what's going on, and how as big as Southern Maryland has gotten, but you just don't hear of them anymore.
Nah.
So, but I mean, we lived on the beach, and you could tell by the color of the water, you could tell by the atmosphere, and it was an automatic, "Kids, get out of bed, get the crab nets, let's go," and that's what we did. And we would miss school for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would excuse that absence for sure. So
I mean, you got to eat.
Yeah. So what are some traditions you enjoy now with your family?
Okay. From the time that they were kids, they all had rooms relatively close to each other. But from the time that they were kids, every time we would put them to bed, I remember we would read them a story, and we would pray with them and over them individually. And then, of course, when they got a little older and started going to bed at their own time, or we would put them to bed together, instead of doing 3 separate times, it was just, we would put them to bed. We'd say our good nights. I know James used to get them so riled up before bed. He used to play with them, wrestle with them before bed. And then he'd be like, "Well, okay, time to go to bed." I'm like, "How are you going to put a kid to bed like that?"
It worked.
It did work. But those are some fond memories and traditions that we had. And then we carried that praying over them before bed, even up until, like when they were adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's a little different because they're either staying up real late doing school, or playing a game, or we got one that moved out. So the whole dynamic is different. But those were some of our traditions. And then football game on Thanksgiving. That's what we do. And then James and Isaiah cook a stuffed ham on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And that's their Thanksgiving tradition. And our family dynamics have changed a little bit. We got 3 working adults. One doesn't live with us anymore. One travels. He's got his own life. our youngest, all three of them really have their own life, school, work, the whole 9 yards. So if I get one family night at dinner, of my whole family once a week, I'm a lucky person. But we captivate on the Super Bowl party we do. And I know that's not just our family, but it is a family tradition because we do it together and we have our friends over. And then birthday dinners, we try and do birthday dinners for them, whether they want to go out or cook at home. We try to do that. And then everybody bakes their own dish on a holiday. It helps obviously take the load off one person cooking, but then it gives them, hey, I'm gonna make this dish. Yeah, awesome. I never heard of that. Let's do that. And then our 4th of July party we have. Those are some big traditions that we have, and we love them. Yeah. So
they're awesome. So you mentioned some really big events that happen in your house. As youth leaders, you guys have had tons of people in and out of your house. What do you think it is that makes your home warm and inviting?
I would probably say the fact that we try and make it warm and inviting. I think the laughter is probably a big thing. Yeah. We're all vessels for God, right? And when James and I decided to redo our house, one of the things that we said was, we were blessed enough to double its size. And one of the things that we said was, we're going to use it for God, and if that means fellowship, then that's what we're going to do. And I think, what makes it warm and inviting is just the fact that I would like to think we're warm and inviting people.
I don't know.
When someone walks to the door, we're like, hey, how are you? Come on in. Excuse the mess. Come on in. And I would think the opportunity to be yourself. You can come in here and you can be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be something you're not.
I was just talking to someone recently about how creepy your house is without you guys here. Like, your house is your house because of you guys. Like, if you guys weren't here, it'd totally be super creepy. Yeah. What's one thing you miss about being a kid?
Not having adult responsibility.
Preach. Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's what it was, right? Getting up, skipping school for a crab run, or all summer long, where were we? We were in the water. Yeah. That's just what we did. Yeah. We'd come up, get some food, go back in the water. My mom would have to call us in, dinner time. Oh, really? Not having a care in the world, and then getting older. Yeah. I guess I got to learn how to embrace that season of life yet. I don't know that I've done it yet, Simone.
Do you have any regrets in life?
Loads.
Can you list one regret you have in life?
One regret. I remember talking to Jesus one day, and I was like, man, when my kids get married, I'm going to give them like a whole bag of what I regret doing as a parent. Right? I'm gonna be like, guys, this is what I regret not doing with you as a parent. And God was like, why would you do that? Yeah. Instead of focusing on all your regrets that you didn't do as a parent, why don't you look at the stuff you did do as a parent? But if there's any regret that I have, it might be not being in the moment when it was necessary. Yeah. Like it could have been like, looking down at my phone, or missing a birthday. I don't want to say I ever missed a birthday but not making that a priority over this.
Or even, like you said earlier, rushing, kind of trying to get to someplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I wish I would have learned better to just be like, you know what? This does not have to be go, 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 go all the time. Or I don't have to say yes to everything. It's okay to be like, you know what? Let me just love being their mom. And social media is a terrible thing, right? Because I look at parents now, and I look at kids and parents and I'm just like, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do this? And then I sit there and I'm like, oh, social media, you Satan. But Russian, yeah.
Yeah. As a kid or growing up, what was your favorite vacation?
The beach in North Carolina. We would go to the ocean and we would get our boogie boards and we would go boogie boarding. We would go wave surfing or body surfing. Being sucked in by the waves, that's the most frightful thing in the entire world. But I'll tell you what, man, like, wow, okay, you got appreciation for the water now. You can't just go jump in the river and be or the ocean and be okay. But the beach in North Carolina, loved the beach, loved going to the dunes, loved sleeping in the back of our van, loved swimming in the ocean at night.
Ooh, sounds scary.
It was scary, but it was great.
Yeah,
that was cool. One of our favorites.
So what's been one of your favorite vacations now?
Okay, so James has asked me this question.
Yeah.
Right? And I've looked at him and I'm like, man, I can pick something great out of each vacation we've done,
Yeah.
So when we went hiking in Arizona a couple of years ago, shoo, that was awesome. Like, we loved it. My family loved it. My kids loved it. We just loved it. We loved waking up in the morning and being like, hey, we're going over here to hike today, and making it to the top of the rock and sitting there and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So going to Arizona, seeing the Grand Canyon, like, I'll never forget. We got there and we got our first overlook, right? And we're all like, oh my word, this is awesome. And I look over to my husband and I'm like, I got real quiet, and he's like stoic, glasses on and everything. And I think one of the kids looked at me and be like, Mom, I think Daddy's crying. And I looked and I'm like, James, you okay? He's like, this is breathtaking. But everybody felt that way.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen pictures of the Grand Canyon, right? But to be there, to hike down in it, oh man, it was awesome. So definitely hiking, going to Arizona, that was one of our favorite family vacations. Hiking in with Linda Lou in California.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
Like, the roads were terrible. Because it didn't make a difference where we ended up. We were always on a mountain road, either going up or down around 90-degree turns. And it was terrible. But just doing that whole national park hiking trip, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Going to Hawaii with Hannah the 1 month, and then James the next month. Like, each time, like, it was just, so every time we've gone on a different vacation, it's just been one thing, like, man, I love that. We should do that again. Man, I love that. We should do that again. Going on our first cruise, James and I, like, it was awesome. And then even going on this last cruise, it was like, oh man, it wasn't like we thought it was the first time. And I found this out about my family and about myself, but it was like, it was great. Like, there were certain aspects about different vacations we've been on that have just been awesome. And then when we all went out to Oregon, and the Pacific West Coast, if you ever get a chance to go there, everybody needs to go to the Pacific Coast at some point in time in their life, because it's so beautiful. But yeah, just things like that. So just about every vacation we can find something that's been great.
Thinking down the road, what advice would you give your grandchildren?
I don't know, this is a tough one because my kids keep saying they don't want kids.
You might. I mean, you could adopt a whole youth group like you guys did, and they have tons of advice.
This is true. I'll just start giving their dogs advice. I would tell my grandchildren, make sure you live in the moment. Don't always be in a rush to get to the next season of life and the next moment. Just embrace the moment you're in.
Yeah.
As tough as it may be, as fun as it may be, as hard as it may be, learn to live in that moment. Love Jesus and have a relationship with him. If you don't do anything else in life, the best thing you could ever do is to love Jesus and have a relationship with him.
That's good.
Be nice and help people. Just be nice and help people.
Yeah.
I would tell my and love the outside. Fun outside.
Yeah. Really great. Your dogs could appreciate that as well.
This is true.
So, I know this one was a tough one, but what is the most important lesson you've learned in life?
When I thought about this question, I was like, man, I got to figure like the most important lesson. I don't think there is any one lesson more important than another. Because I think each lesson learned in that specific season is for that season.
Yeah.
And then can be tucked away in your back pocket for the next season.
Yeah.
So, I went through something like this. Let me pull it out and be like, all right, I know not what to do or what not to do. And I know what to do. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know that I can pinpoint the most important lesson that I've learned in life. Outside of just the fact that I know that each season produces different lessons, and they can be used in every season of life that you go through.
True. List 3 words that describe your personality.
Oh, man.
It's easy. Just the 3 first words when you think of you.
Linda. Okay, so the first 3 words when I saw this question, and I started writing it down are aloud. I am. It is. It's okay. I'm okay. Extrovert and loving. I would hope that that's how people see me too.
What do you wish you had more time for in life?
Spending time with my family. Like, if I could quit my job and we could just go travel the world together, that would be great. Of course, I think I'd drive them nuts, but that's okay. And then traveling. I think those are things. I think everything else is just a priority. I look, sometimes I'll be like, man, I didn't have the time to do this, and I didn't have the time to do that. And I sit there and I'm like, well, Linda, technically you did, because you could have done it here when you were doing this, or here when you were doing this. I'm like, okay, fine, I had the time. I just didn't do it. But I think maybe just a little bit more time when they were younger,
Yeah.
To just, like every once in a while I'd be like, man, I wish I could make you guys that small again. I could. So when they were younger, I would kiss them. I'd be like, come here, let me just kiss your face off, right? So now when they're adults, I'm like, I wish I could just make you just that small, just again, so I could kiss your face off. They're like, oh God, Mom, it's whatever.
What do you wish you wasted less time on?
Stupid stuff that wouldn't matter the moment after it was done. That stupid stuff.
Yeah.
When YouTube got big and, you got people that started doing, you would follow them and you would watch them live their life.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to tell my kids, guys, don't watch them live your life. Their life. Go live your life.
Yeah.
Go do what, you think they're doing. You go do it. Just be safe when you do it. Okay. Anyhow. And so there's times where I sit there and I'm like, why am I on social media? There's times I'm like, man, I'm a hypocrite. I'm watching these people live their life and I'm scrolling through.
Yeah.
Get off the phone or get off social media. But really, I think stupid. The big thing is stupid stuff that wouldn't matter a moment after it was over.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good answer. Do you think life is harder now or easier?
I think each season has its own hardships and its own easy times.
Yeah.
When you're a mom, or when you first get married, it's like a lot of people say this, that first year of marriage was really tough, right? And then you learn to go through some things, later. James and I have been married almost 24 years, at this point, and we've weathered some storms. And, I'm reading this book, as a matter of fact, about hormones. And he talks about the male testosterone, and he talks about the female hormones, which is estrogens. It's plural. It's not just one. But he talks about how the male testosterone is an aggressive hormone. And he said, ladies, that's why when you and your man are fighting, don't keep nagging with him. Let him walk away, because he needs time for that testosterone to come down. And I say that to say that, the first year of marriage might be the hardest, right? But each season, it might be the hardest. But you got 2 people that are trying to learn how to live together and do life together. And so when you weather that season, you take that, and the next hardship that you go through, you'll be like, man, this is a breeze. This is easy, smooth sailing type thing. But I think each season of life has its own hardships and its own portions of being easy. So.
What is something your mom always told you?
I love you. You're my best friend.
Aww.
She used to tell me that all the time.
They're so good. Share how you and your significant other have decided on important principles to teach your family.
Okay, so James and I didn't do premarital counseling, but this is what we did. We talked about our life, how I grew up and how he grew up. And we talked about the things we didn't want to do that our parents did. And no fault, obviously the way my dad acted was ridiculous, but there were specific things we did not want to do that our parents did. Yeah. And we said, okay. I said, okay, I don't want to do this. this is what my parents did, and I don't want to do this. And he was like, this is what my parents did, and I don't want to do this. So we were like, all right, now that we know what we're not doing, let's just figure out how to raise these kids and make sure they are viable human beings and can contribute to society. And so we did that. And then it was a lot of, okay, well, this is what the Bible says, you know? Or, okay, well, now mom and dad have to learn how to be nurturing and loving and caring. And we don't need to yell. We both had households that yelled a lot, and we don't need to do that. So we figured out how to raise our kids, and how to, figure out what was best for our family and go from there. And we picked out okay, here's what we're not doing.
Yeah.
And didn't do those things. You know what I mean?
What do you believe about yourself that helps you be successful and deal with hard times?
I'm determined, I think.
Yeah.
And I pray. Tough times come, and I've always been a fighter. It's just that God has taken that, and I never was in a physical fight. I had a mouth, okay? It was a bad mouth, and I remember I would fight with my mouth, and so God has taken that worldly fighting that I had growing up, and changed it to a fight in the spiritual realm. So I'm determined, and I'll pray.
Yeah.
So, and yeah.
So what were the 3 best decisions you made in your life?
Okay, making the decision to follow God.
Yeah.
That's one of the best decisions I could have ever made in my life. Getting married, despite being told, no, don't marry him, get married. Because, man, I'll tell you, my husband, he's a gem. And having my kids. Those are the 3 best decisions I've made in my life.
Did you see yourself being a mom, though?
I didn't want kids. I wanted to get married and get out of St. Mary's County, and I didn't. I used to tell my mom, I'm not having kids. You cannot pay me to have kids. I don't want kids. But when I got pregnant with Linda Lou, I was like, man, I love this kid.
Yeah.
And then when I had Isaiah, he just brought a whole other dynamic to it. But same thing. It was, man, I love this kid. And then Hannah, I'm like, oh, man, I love this kid, So, and then we were like, yeah, we're not having more. 3's good.
Yeah. It's 1 too many.
Yeah, but can you imagine your life without Hannah?
No.
See?
So what were/are your goals as parents?
Okay, so making sure they stayed alive. That was making sure they were fed, clean, clothed, and were good. If we got through the day and those were the only 3 things we did, that's exactly right. We won. Making sure they follow Jesus. That was one of our biggest goals.
Yeah. I
didn't care what my kids did in life. I just wanted to make sure that no matter what, they had a relationship with God. That no matter what, they knew as hard as life could get, they could turn to Jesus. And then making sure they could live on their own. I mean, I know I was joking about it earlier, but really, making sure they could live on their own. Mm-hmm. They knew how to handle society. But not just handle society, help people through society.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all we have for this episode. Be sure to tune in next week for more words from your mama.